Hey guys, it's Frank here from Altcoin Buzz, and today I'm going to be covering ChainLink again because this coin is on fire, and it's not just the price which interests me, it's also the fundamentals. This has some serious potential, and I think it's really important that everyone in crypto gets a better idea of what ChainLink is. So today we'll be going over some of the comments which people posted in the last ChainLink video. We will make some calculations to see what it would take for Link to reach Bitcoin or Ethereum's market cap. We will have another price analysis, this time looking at the lower time frames and seeing if our longer time frame predictions can still hold true. We will refer to this article on Ethereum and ChainLink to see what the main differences are and how they both contribute to the crypto space. We will also look at the top 10 companies in the world to see if Link might be able to get to the top in terms of the top 10 of crypto. We will be looking at some major headlines for ChainLink in terms of their on-chain analysis and trying to figure out whether or not ChainLink is in a bubble. We will also briefly cover the interest in Google Trends, which is surging as you can see here. Check out a couple memes just for a laugh. Briefly cover the LINKDOWN tokens which are going to launch soon. Have a look at the technical analysis which I made yesterday as well as the price to see how that's going. And finally, of course, we'll also touch on the amazing number of partners which ChainLink has. This is just ridiculous how many partners they have. And also we'll have a quick look at how rapidly blockchain is being adopted in the space, which of course relates to ChainLink being adopted. So of course, undoubtedly what interests most people about ChainLink is the price. Let's be honest. The last 7 days it has seen a 50% jump in price with a 3.2% rise today. Now, one of the questions we're seeking to answer in this video is, could ChainLink overtake Ethereum? So right now, ChainLink has a market cap of 3.2 billion, whereas Ethereum has a market cap of 26.6 billion. So what this means is that the ChainLink would have to do an 8.3x in price in order to reach Ethereum's market cap. So for example, if you believe that ChainLink could overtake Ethereum or at least reach the same price as Ethereum, the ChainLink price of 8.36 would have to be multiplied by 8.3. Let's do that. So here the price would be $72. Now, of course, if ChainLink really started going ballistic, and when I say ballistic, I mean even more ballistic than it already has been, and reaching Ethereum's market cap, I think by that time, it's safe to say that Bitcoin and Ethereum themselves will start gaining some serious momentum as well. Now, some people could take it to the next level and talk about ChainLink overtaking Bitcoin's market cap. Well, now we're talking about 3.2 billion versus 169.6 billion. So for this to happen, Link would have to make a 53x in price, and 53 times the current price would take ChainLink to a price of $440. Now, I think that ChainLink getting to Ethereum's price is already pretty crazy, or at least getting to Ethereum's market cap. ChainLink getting to Bitcoin's market cap, you know, the funny thing is, I think it is possible. But the only reason I think it's possible is because I think it's likely that Bitcoin itself will make a 10, 20, 30, even 50, 100x in price over the next several years. And of course, if Bitcoin makes a 50x in price, and then ChainLink makes a 50x in price, even if their ratios stay the same, ChainLink will actually reach Bitcoin's market cap and will trade at a price of $440. So, you know, anything is possible in this crypto world. And it reminds me of how frustrated I felt when I first saw someone talk about Link going to $1,000. I'm like, that's never going to happen. But the reality is that, you know, we always underestimate what can be achieved long term and overestimate what can be achieved short term. So in other words, ChainLink is not going to get to $100 this year, but could it get to $1,000? Well, in several years' time, this is not out of the question. Okay, but now that we have that hopium moon boy talk out the way, let's get down to some real fundamentals. So what is Ethereum and what is ChainLink? So for those of you who don't know, Ethereum comprises three main technological features: the development of decentralized applications or dApps, the deployment of smart contracts, and the Ethereum virtual machine, which is essentially a sandboxed emulation of a computer system that runs dApps and smart contracts on the Ethereum network. So at some point, Ethereum validators will be able to stake their Ethereum and earn interest. And when Ethereum 2.0 launches, we will also have sharding, which will improve Ethereum's transaction capacity and speed. So although ChainLink is on fire right now and they have really solid fundamentals, don't forget that Ethereum has a lot coming for it too. Now compare that with ChainLink. ChainLink is a distributed Oracle network that connects smart contracts on the blockchain to external resources. Now, the first thing I think when I hear Oracle Network is the Oracle from the Matrix, right? Wasn't she badass? She just knew everything, but she was super calm and everyone went to her. And this is the way I see Link. It's like you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, you have all these applications. They need to connect to each other into the real world. And the Oracle is who they come to. They come to Link to help them connect. As we will see shortly, Link has an incredible number of partners, and this is because they all see value in using Link. And on a side note, wasn't The Matrix just like the most awesome movie that ever came out? I remember when it first came out, those graphics were incredible. But all right, anyway, back to ChainLink. So ChainLink connects blockchain to external resources, including real-world data, web APIs, real-world events, and payment networks. So it's a decentralized Oracle network. In other words, there's no central point of failure. And the Link network is powered by all these contributors who are rewarded in Link, in the cryptocurrency Link, for participating in the Link ecosystem. And just to give you an idea, Link can connect blockchains to retail payments. So for example, a Visa card payment or a PayPal payment can cause an Ethereum smart contract to execute. Data from other blockchains, so connecting the Bitcoin blockchain to interact with the Ethereum smart contract. From bank payments, events and Internet of Things, web APIs, backend systems, market data, there's almost an endless array of applications for ChainLink. And as this article states by Hacker Moon, it's clear that oracles will play an important role in the evolution of blockchain technology. I would say it plays a critical role for connecting blockchains to real-world events. And the reason I say this is that when cryptocurrency first came out, it was all about creating digital cash, which is decentralized, anonymous, borderless, immutable, and all that good stuff. But now we're starting to discover that there's actually a huge range of potential applications for blockchain technology, including healthcare, supply chain management, voting, financial services, you name it. And for all or almost all of these, ChainLink will have to be the link in between them. Now, of course, there are competitors to ChainLink, but ChainLink has a first mover advantage and has a huge head start compared to its competitors. So in terms of ChainLink's main technological features, we covered the oracles, which are defined as third-party information sources which supply data to blockchains that support smart contracts. So if you have a data feed, a payments platform, a tracking service, or any other useful API, you can provide these directly to smart contracts in exchange for Link cryptocurrency. So as you can see, Link is a critical component of the ChainLink ecosystem. And together, these features will enable ChainLink to create a reliable, self-sufficient, and tamper-proof global ecosystem through the marriage of blockchain technology and real-world data. So as this article states, smart contracts are naturally limited since they don't know what's going on outside of their native blockchain. So the smart contracts which are enabled by Ethereum are not enough all by themselves. And as mentioned before, there's a huge array of ways in which ChainLink oracles can be used with smart contracts. Here we have supply chain, utilities, government, authorization and identity, miscellaneous industries. It just goes on and on and on. So the use cases for ChainLink are absolutely huge. So I enjoyed these final thoughts where he talks about Ethereum being less than 5 years old and ChainLink being less than 3 years old, despite the fact that the parent company of ChainLink was started back in 2014. He then says that the Ethereum network will house next-generation applications, decentralized websites, and smart contracts, creating a new, stronger, and democratic web ecosystem. So that's a pretty strong selling point if you ask me in terms of future potential. ChainLink, however, will have oracles act as the messages moving between the blockchain and the real world. The future is coming. Companies who do not act now will be left behind, just like the companies who failed to adopt telecommunications and the internet. So this is what I love about cryptocurrency. It's so exciting. There's so much potential, and no matter how high the price has gone, we are still early to the game. Another way we can get an idea of how ChainLink would rank in terms of the top 10 cryptocurrencies is to look at the top 10 companies by market cap. So have a look at the first two here. Apple at $1.5 trillion, just absolutely insane. And Microsoft also at about $1.5 trillion. So think about these companies. What kind of things do they offer? Apple, in a way, has a platform on which you can create applications. That's why you have the Apple Store. Alphabet, which relates to Google, own the Play Store, on which you can also create all sorts of applications. So of course, Ethereum is trying to take a similar role, right? It's trying to be this platform on which many applications are based. So as you can see, in these top 4 companies, we have several which are creating a platform on which many applications can run. So if we bring this over to cryptocurrencies, and of course Bitcoin is a different animal altogether, we'll look into that in a second, Ethereum, or at least platforms like Ethereum, like of course Cardano, and EOS, and Tezos, and Stellar, all of these have the potential to be the new top 10 companies in the world. Because if blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies really take off in the way that I expect them to, then in the next 5, 10, 20 years, it's very likely that we see a similar ranking to the type of ranking that we have now, where the top companies are the ones on which applications can be built. Now remember how we said one way for Chainlink to reach insane prices like $500 or $1,000 is for Bitcoin to boom? Well, now Bitcoin is a different animal altogether, because Bitcoin, we're starting to talk about the broad money supply, right? We're talking about basically all the money that there is in the world. If the immutable, borderless, and anonymous Bitcoin were to overtake money, then it would be a whole different animal, right? In the terms of the broad money supply, we're talking about 95,000 billion, which is 95 trillion. So in terms of comparing the top company, which is Apple at 1.5 trillion, to this broad money supply, you can just see how it's going to be very unlikely for cryptocurrencies to overtake Bitcoin unless they can fulfill a similar role of promising to be a digital cash or a digital gold. Okay, but anyway, let's zoom in a bit and get back to Chainlink. So in terms of on-chain metrics, Cointelegraph published this article saying that 3 key on-chain metrics may explain Chainlink's meteoric rise. So the one interesting fact they point out is that the number of active addresses holding Link has increased from 970 on January 1st, so that's almost 1,000, to 14,255 on July 13th, almost a 1,500% growth. So you can tell that it's not pure speculation. There is genuine increase in network usage, in value of the Link network. They further talk about how over half of Link's circulating supply is held in smart contracts. And indeed, if we zoom in on this graph over here, you can see that Chainlink over here, 50% of the supply is held in smart contracts compared to, for example, Ethereum, where it's just 10%, or Tether, where it's basically 0%. So that's huge in terms of how much Ethereum is actually available to be sold. Then this article provides some extra information on the on-chain data and other interesting facts. For example, the return on investment for those who purchased the first listed price is now exceeding 5,000%. So tell me down in the comments below, when did you get your first Link? I imagine not many of you got in when it first got listed. However, they also say that Link investors are estimated to be at a 64% profit on average. So again, write down in the comments below, what is your profit on Link if you bought any? In any case, here they continue to say that the total active addresses and the total number of transactions have been rising. So you can see this meteoric rise here of the number of transactions and addresses ever since June last year. And then of course, as you know, there's a massive DeFi boom right now. And this correlates to the growing demand for DeFi-enabled coins like Link, as it provides some of the highest interest for yield farmers cultivating interest on protocols like Aave. So as the DeFi sector continues to grow, so does the need for reliant and decentralized oracles that can provide outside information to smart contracts. So in other words, if the DeFi boom continues pumping, it's likely that this will also help push the Link price further. Then another interesting metric is the search volume over time. Now have a look at this. This is the past 5 years. So the interest in Chainlink has never been as high as it is now. It's essentially reaching the highest point that it has ever reached. So although there's partial data, which is the meaning behind this dotted line, it is nonetheless reaching previous highs in terms of interest. And there's nothing to say that this momentum won't keep on going and start reaching new highs in terms of interest. And during my research, I thought it was kind of funny to have a look at Sergey, the CEO of Chainlink, here being portrayed as the god. And I think he's got a Lambo in his hands there. And then we have this lady, I guess maybe it's from some series or something, but she's holding onto all her Chainlink as well as the Pepe frog, which of course is a famous internet meme. And then we have Sergey fighting off the bears, which they certainly have been managing for now. However, we will have a look at the price action to see how much longer he really can fight these bears off. And then the next thing I wanted to bring your attention to was the fact that you have these LINKDOWN tokens. Now, Link futures have been trading on Binance for a while, but LINKDOWN tokens will offer users the ability to short Link. So when these go live, there is a possibility that there will be increased interest in shorting Link. But as I mentioned before, ChainLink has an insane number of partners. I challenge you to pause this screen and see how many cryptocurrency logos you can recognize here. In addition to all the cryptocurrencies and blockchain projects which they're working with, they're also working with Google Cloud and Oracle, so it's not just a blockchain thing. They're really getting their feet wet outside of the blockchain world too. And since ChainLink is so interconnected with the success of blockchains, it only makes sense to refer to this article, which talks about a survey showing the substantial jump in blockchain adoption. So this year in 2020, almost twice as many firms surveyed by Deloitte have integrated blockchain solutions compared to 2019. And over half of respondents named blockchain among the top 5 strategic priorities, and China turned out to be one of the biggest supporters of blockchain and digital assets. So blockchain is not going anywhere, and therefore ChainLink is not going anywhere either. As I've mentioned in the past, I love to read the comments and interact with you guys, and I've picked out a couple interesting comments which I want to look over. So Host Beef over here saying, not saying this isn't the top for Link, but look at the chart for Litecoin when it consolidated in the $4 range from 2016 to 2017, and then blasted off to $400 at the end of that year in 2017. So let's have a look at that Litecoin chart. So the price action Host Beef is referring to is when Bitcoin was between this $2.5 level and $6 level and pretty much hovering around this $4 level from where it bounced like crazy. Now look at the RSI here. So the first thing to note is that we were in a consolidating range over here, and it was a very long time coming, after which we had this absolutely insane pump where we went from $4, and I really have to zoom out to the chart here to get to the top, all the way to $94 before having a massive correction of basically almost 60%, and then going all the way up to, of course, $400 later on. Now, the reason I'm doing this technical analysis is not to say, hey, we're at the absolute top and you have to sell Litecoin at X price because the indicators are saying that there's going to be a dump. No, what I'm trying to figure out is where there's a very likely probability that we're going to see at the very least a 10, 20, 30% retracement. And as you can see, there are many such points in the chart. Even when Litecoin went from $4 all the way to $40, we saw a 56% retracement down to $17. So, if you sold half your Litecoin up at the top price there, and then you use that to buy back in at this price of $17.6, you would have been getting that Litecoin at half the price than you did before. So you would have more than 150% as much Litecoin as you would have had you not have entered that trade. And in terms of the RSI, look what happened when we did top out at $38 and came down to $17.8. So in terms of the RSI here, remember in a previous video I said it's very rare to see the RSI above 90. Now this was one of those very rare occasions when we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of RSI above 90. And I think what Host Beef was trying to say was that although we have a super high RSI, it does not mean that we're going to simply crash or even correct at this point, that we might see further upside. Okay, so now let's compare this to Link. So first of all, in terms of market structure, it's somewhat similar in the sense that we had this kind of a double top over here, certainly a strong resistance at the $5 region, and now we've broken out of it. And the RSI is only at 82.5. So yes, it's absolutely possible that we start reaching previous highs and get to this 90 level. But again, here, remember when I said 90 is very rare? Here we had 1, 2 weeks at 90 and then pretty much crashed down. So the point is that as we start getting to these extended RSIs, yes, there's a possibility that we can go even higher, but let's not forget what happened at Link BTC. So if we just enter Link BTC here, look what happened every time we reached this overbought level on the RSI. And more specifically, when we reached approximately the 75 level. Every time we saw quite a notable correction. And I've covered this in the previous video, but it ranges between 40%, 20%, 50%. So the point is that more often than not, when we reach these overextended RSIs, even though we're still in a massive bull trend, we have these quite notable corrections. And as you can see right now, the weekly RSI is at 81, and that's where we topped out once before, and where we also saw one of the most major Link corrections from the past, where we corrected from 39,000 sats all the way down to 14,500 sats. Another comment was by Alex Leone. I know that everybody's hyped by this market, but Bitcoin is waiting for a big move. And then Alex talks about how if Bitcoin makes a big move, the whole market will melt. And my reaction to this was, yeah, it's a good point, Alex. If Bitcoin makes a massive move to either direction, it likely won't be good for most alts in terms of their Bitcoin value. So what do I mean by that? Well, have a look at this Bitcoin chart. The weekly has been contracting in this zone for many weeks now. And the most likely scenario that happens is that we see a big move to either side. Now, if Bitcoin crashes down here, very few alts, if any, will maintain their Bitcoin value. And similarly, if Bitcoin starts pumping like crazy now and reaches 13,000, 14,000, then we could have a similar scenario as we saw in November 2017 all the way to December 2017, where Bitcoin was pumping like crazy, but dominance was also increasing. Bitcoin dominance was increasing, and alts were just fading away from the picture and getting crushed in terms of their Bitcoin value. So if you're trading alts, note that now is a good time to trade alts because Bitcoin is ranging sideways, but it's very likely that whichever move Bitcoin takes, your alts will lose their Bitcoin value for the simple reason that Bitcoin is likely to make a big move in one direction or the other shortly. Okay, but now coming back to Link USDT. So in my previous video, I said that my general prediction was that we were going to correct before seeing new highs. So at that point, the price was about $7.1, and we in fact saw a slightly new high over here. We went all the way up to the very bottom of this resistance box, which I marked between $8.9 and $10. So notice how we've reached the very bottom of this resistance box and already corrected 10%, and actually we went all the way down to 11%. So notice how although my first prediction of us reaching new lows here was not met, we have in fact corrected from the beginning of this resistance box, in fact the very beginning of this resistance box at the $8.9 level, and we are currently retracing and actually already have retraced all the way down to the $7.9 level. So again, one of the ways in which I discovered where this box was or where the likely resistance would be was to take an extension of where this volume started and look at a 1.618 extension, which is usually what you would expect to see on a third wave. So here I'm assuming that this is the first wave of the Elliott wave structure. And then I also looked at a different wave, which is this one. Let me draw it using the weekly. So I did an extension of this massive wave over here, assuming that this is the first wave. And I found that we had a similar price over here at $8.6, so a little bit lower. And I figured that it was more likely than not that we would see more than a 1.618 extension for the simple fact that we have broken out of this important structure and that we have increasing volume. And then I drew this red box all the way to $10 since that's a psychological level, and it's also a 2-to-1 extension of this previous wave, which is another typical resistance point. And as I pointed out in my previous video, I think the most likely specific level is $9.3. But if you really were to short this market, or if you really were to take profits from your initial position, it would be very unwise to just wait for one specific level and try to short that. It's much better to ladder in your shorts. That being said, I have not personally shorted this market. When I saw us approaching this $8.9 level, I was tempted to. However, even then, I wanted to wait for a more extreme level, reaching my target of 9.3. So as mentioned, I have not shorted this market. And I also have to admit that shorting these tops can be very risky since the price is very volatile and you're going against the trend. So I wouldn't recommend that for beginning traders. In summary, I would say that my resistance box still holds. I still foresee major resistance if we even get within this box. I am not selling at this level because the loss in momentum is not strong enough to suggest that we will correct. And I'm also not interested in buying this until the RSI reaches very reasonable levels on the daily, the 4-hour, and the weekly timeframes. Right now, the daily and the weekly are both overbought. And that's been it for me today. Let me know what you thought of the video. Leave a comment down below. I always like to interact with you guys. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one.